looking smarter than ever, J.C. Penni. You're looking smarter than ever, J.C. Penni.
J.C. Penni!
What's up, guys?
We're here for the week 4, the post-week 4 going into week 5 podcast. I guess it's episode 4. And with 4 weeks out of the 13 regular season weeks already in the books, not only are we going to be doing our normal recap and our preview of week 4 and week 5 respectively, but we've also got first trimester grades, J.C. Penni tradition. So we'll be giving some grades. But as you've noticed, Jerry has been replaced with a much more handsome winner, our league champion Alex Berchock here with me in the podcast. So thanks for coming, Alex.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me out.
Absolutely. So we're going to recap last week's games and we'll get right into it. First one, Jason McMillan and myself going at it. You know, you hate to see that happen to a tough competitor.
Oh, right in the testicles. Ouch, town population, you, bro.
Jay not having a great year so far.
No.
You know,
it was looking really bad up until Monday night and James Conner finally showed up. So.
Yeah. I mean, you look at it, honestly, I think Jerry and I both, when we were predicting this one last week, obviously predicted me, and I was 3-0, Jay's 0-3, so it's from, bad to worse for him. But I mean, Nick Chubb carried my team.
Yeah.
All right. Hasselbeck get a ball to Marshawn Lynch. Whoa. Look at this shit. Look at this nigga. Look at this motherfucking beast. Look at this. Whoa. Hold on. Get the fuck out of me, pussy. Oh, shit. Look at this shit. Running. Touchdown. Easy. And Darren Sharper. Hope it dig. This shit was so nasty. Look at this shit. How the fuck do you get through all these motherfuckers? Look at this shit. Whoa. Get the fuck off me, bitch. Pussy. Hey, you little nigga, get off me! Child's play? Look at this nigga, though! I never seen a nigga put his team on the back like this nigga Darren Sharper Homer did.
Yeah, that was a big game.
It really was just my running backs, I got, over 60 points out of my RB1, RB2, and I can't bank on that. Also, thank you very, very much for Devontae Adams and Robert Woods, who each had essentially 23 points.
Yeah.
That was a very generous trade on your part.
Yeah, the farther we get away from that trade, the more I'm starting to regret it a little bit. I should have stuck with my guns. I was really trying to get Nick Chubb there, and Sean swindled me out of that. That was my first regret, was not getting Nick Chubb. And second regret is I shouldn't have threw in Woods for Boyd there at the end. Sean threw that in on the end, and I went with it, and I probably shouldn't have.
I mean, this is what we talked about last week, and I'm sure you watched it on the podcast, was, I feel like you were buying high on a couple guys like Boyd, for example. Matt Ryan, I still think is going to have a great year.
Yeah, that's my favorite piece of the trade, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think I was selling high on those guys, and I was buying low on Devontae and Robert Woods because they, up until this week, they haven't done really much of anything.
Right.
And on the flip side, McMillan's in some trouble, isn't he?
Yeah, it's not looking great. James Conner is starting pretty slow. I mean, he had a good game, last week, but it's not looking great. He also left the game with an ankle injury. Didn't practice today. OBJ's, he's got a slow start as well, and that's his round first and second round picks there, and it's just.
Yeah, I mean, you said Connor. I mean, this was the first week he was really doing anything. OBJ, you're right. I mean, Jarvis Landry had a fantastic day from what I remember.
He did on my bench.
But OBJ, a rough start, and you look at the rest of McMillan's team. I mean, LaShawn McCoy he's very, very fortunate because remember, McMillan drafted McCoy as a Bill in the 12th round, and benefited tremendously from the obviously McCoy being cut by the Bills, signed by Andy Reid and the Chiefs. But the rest of his roster just doesn't look great. I mean, yeah, he had Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Howard on his bench who had huge games, but the rest of his bench literally did not score a single point.
And, I mean, he is starting to make moves now. He's, like, at least trying to get his team better, but he dropped Kareem Hunt finally and then picked up Jeff Wilson.
Who's Jeff Wilson?
He's the fourth running back on the 49ers.
And
And Tevin Coleman's coming back, like, if not this week, the following week. I mean, I know he's got 3 touchdowns so far, but that's not going to keep happening. Like, he's
Jay
gone.
McMillan signing bums, dum 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 dum.
But
Picking up a 4th RB, dum 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 dum.
There goes that kooky Joseph Smith.
You know, he claims he spoke with God and Jesus.
Well, how do you know he didn't?
Dum 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 dum. Joseph Smith was called a prophet.
Hey, Joseph, I told my wife that you spoke with God and Jesus, and she didn't believe it.
Well, it's true.
That sounds kind of...
Dum 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 dum.
he's trying now. He's trying.
Yeah, but he's 0-4. Like, I mean, we'll get to this in the grades, I guess, but it's a rough start.
And also forgot, this isn't up to date. He picked up
Oh, that was his week 4 lineup. You're right.
he picked up Geronimo Allison this morning. He stole him from me. I was trying to get him. He
Oh.
bid $2 more than I did, and ended up getting Geronimo Allison.
Okay, that's not a bad pickup.
Yeah, especially with Devontae Adams most likely being out this week.
Yeah, that's true too. Closest game of the week was a 7-point squeaker for James, who moves to 3-1 on the year against Brad.
I'm very impressed with how James is handling these injuries. Like, you know, Saquon went out, or Tyreek Hill went out first, and then Saquon, and Stephon Diggs is pretty much injured the way he's been performing, and he's pulling out pretty well.
I'll admit, I was in the camp to give James a lot of shit for. I mean, he bid something ridiculous on Wayne Gallman. Like I'll look it up. But while we're talking about it, but he bid something like he put in a huge bid. I remember on Wayne Gallman, and I get it from where he stands because he had to, right? Like he needed some kind of production due to Saquon's injury.
Right.
But it was 28. That was it. It was 28. He bid $28, almost a third of his budget on Wayne Gallman. And again, I rationally understand the move, but I was ready to give him a ton of shit for that because I didn't think Wayne Gallman was going to produce anything close to Saquon numbers. 24.8 points.
That's really nothing to shake a stick at.
You
There,
can't ask for more.
But I mean, you got to look at coming up here. They got the Vikings and then the Patriots.
True.
Then their bye week.
Yeah.
And hopefully Saquon's going to be back sometime around then. I mean, he pretty much spent $27
On a stopgap pickup. But it pulled out a win or it helped him to get a win this week that he desperately needed to go to 3-1. And the rest of his lineup isn't, he, like you said, with Tyreek Hill and Saquon Barkley out, 2 of his first, I don't know if those were his first 2, but certainly 2 of his first 3 picks.
Right.
At that, the first overall pick and then the second bookend. Being out for substantial periods of time, and he's putting up 120. Like, that is a huge testament to the depth of his team and a very, very good week for his team. Mark Andrews kind of coming out of nowhere as a, I mean, I don't what position, what rating is he for tight ends right now? What rank is he for tight ends?
He's top 10.
Top 3. He's the 3rd ranked tight end right now.
Yeah.
And granted, you have to take that with a grain of salt because he did put up 20 points against Miami and 21 against Arizona. Kansas City, he only put up 3. This past week, he put up 11. But it's still, like, James is looking pretty solid. As for Brad, not terrible. Certainly, like, whenever you're putting up 112.
No, and he's been consistently putting up over 100 points a week. And Juju with Roethlisberger being out, and Mason Rudolph unable to complete a pass over 2 yards, it's pretty frustrating. He should have had a win last week if Juju would have performed. He should have had a win. But 3 points out of Juju, man, that sucks.
Your poor Steelers. Hey, thanks for taking Minkah Fitzpatrick for a first-round pick.
Yeah,
Please start losing games again.
Hey, at least you don't have to worry about losing this week, man.
Hey.
But yeah,
I'll say this about Brad's team. I think Brad is I think I had him in the top 3. I think in my preseason, like my post draft analysis, the first episode of the podcast. And I'm not saying he's going to be top 3 season's end, but I think if you're asking me today, does Brad make the playoffs? I don't have reservations about it.
No, I believe that.
And he's getting, like, granted, his team was a little inflated by the Patriots getting 25 points. I mean, the Patriots defense. Like, that's pretty ridiculous. He had a pretty average day elsewhere aside from Jared Goff and David Johnson. So that does inflate his score somewhat. But at the end of the day, you look at his lineup. Amari had a bad day. Darren Waller is a stud who had an average day. Phillip Lindsay, James White all have big game potential. His team is just good on paper.
And this seemed like more of a floor week for Brad.
Yeah.
If you look at all of his players, except for I just feel like Juju's floor needs to be higher than that, but it might not be.
Maybe
year.
not. Like you said, with the changing quarterbacks, it really could be a really down year for Juju.
Yeah, but Brad's got bigger weeks to come. I'm sure of that.
So moving on to what was maybe the low. Again, I don't know this for sure. But I'm just gut check. Maybe the lowest scoring game on the season.
It's definitely on the season.
Zach 47 points against Daryl and Nick, who pick up their first win of the season. And Zach falls to 2-2. I mean, what'd you think of this one?
I
mean, other than you can say the obvious. It's fine.
Zach's team, it's shit the bed. I'm not.
Come on, Charlie. You know you did it. Fess up. I did not poop the bed.
Whoa, rewind. What? I'm sorry. Did you say something about pooping in a bed?
Yeah. There was some poop in our bed this morning.
Oh, Jesus.
And Charlie did it. That is bullshit. Charlie.
Guys, hold on a second. Relax. Walk us through what happened.
Nice and slow.
All right. Well, yesterday we wake up and there's a piece of poop right in the middle of me and Frank, okay?
Wait a minute. So this happened 2 nights in a row?
Yeah, man. So we throw the first piece of poop out because big deal, whatever. Accidents happen, right? But then this morning, there's another piece of poop in the exact same spot. Now, Frank says it's not him. I say it's not me, but you bet your ass it's one of us.
This is a lot to handle. Now, the second poop, you held on to it, right?
Brought it along.
Oh, no.
Hey, we said we can't predict the future? How could we possibly have seen something this awesome? Yeah, we're going to have to clear our schedules.
What?
This is going to require a lot of attention.
You're not going to go out with me tonight because these idiots found 2 poopies in a bed?
Yeah, Dee, but it's not the poop. It's the mystery behind the poop.
It really did. Like not a single player performed,
That's a hot take.
Not a single player performed up to their potential or even really close to. I mean, Deshaun Watson's having a rough start so far this year. You can't stay off his back. His offensive line needs to help him out a little bit. I mean, Alvin Kamara, I would have liked to see more points out of him, just the way that game went. Like,
yeah.
New Orleans played with the lead most of that game.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand it was close, but there's no reason
to abandon the run.
Right, exactly.
Especially with, the issues they've had with regard to Drew Brees being injured. You'd think they lean on Kamara a little more heavily.
Right, you want to take the ball out of Teddy Bridgewater's hand.
That's what I'm saying. And yet 10.4 points. And the rest of his team did, literally nothing. Like, Marlon Mack, 3.9. Sammy Watkins. Jerry may have nailed Sammy Watkins with regard to, like, he's going to be in, the top, like, a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, because of that monster week he had early on. But since then, he's done nothing. It's just it was a really bad day. Not to mention, Zach still holding on to Antonio Brown. I think that's optimism at this point, right? That's just pure optimism, right?
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, there's no reason to hold on to him. I mean, I don't know how Antonio Brown thinks that he's going to play in the NFL again. So,
well, he's been talking shit on Twitter like all the time. To like, he got into a barking match with who was it? This Eric Weddle from the Ravens, I think, and then got into it with Baker Mayfield.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, so if you look up on Twitter, I think he got into he or it was either Twitter or Instagram. He got into an argument with it was Eric Weddle, I'm pretty sure, from the Ravens. And Eric Weddle ended the conversation with, "Hey man, I got to get ready for my game on Sunday. Can't talk right now," or something like that, like talking, like throwing shade. And then Baker Mayfield also went in on him. So yeah, it was. I think AB's obviously. I mean, we talked about this on previous podcasts. I think he's obviously done, but I'm surprised that Zach still had him even on his bench going into last week's game.
Well, the other thing is there's not a whole lot out there at the moment. Like, that's the other thing. Like, you guys were talking last week about McMillan not picking up anybody, and I was kind of thinking like there's really not a whole lot out there, but there's better players than Antonio Brown or Kareem Hunt that you would rather have on your bench.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I get the appeal of holding on to Antonio Brown. You burn an early round pick on him. You want to keep him on your roster in case he does sign for with a desperate team that wants to make a playoff push middle of the year. I get it. I'm just and you're right about another thing too, that our league is. I mean, I play in like 4 leagues, and from what I've seen in our league versus others, some of you are very, very smart players. Like, I find that our waiver wire is more depleted than like any other league I play in. It's so hard to find talent there because usually someone snipes them the week before they really blow up, and then it's like, oh man, I want to get this. Fuck, he's gone.
Mm-hmm. It's very, very competitive waiver wire. Good job, guys.
Yeah, fuck off. As for Daryl and Nick, finally a plus 100 point day and a much needed win to keep them kind of from circling the drain like McMillan.
Things are looking up here. They had a rough start of it. I mean, Melvin Gordon's back now.
That's true. That is a big boost for them. I talked about that last week, I think.
Yeah, that's very helpful for them. I mean, it still doesn't help the fact that Sony Michel and Devontae Freeman have been... Well, Devontae Freeman had a pretty good game last week, but before that,
he's had a rough year.
It's been tragic. And Sony Michel as well. Like, he's way underperforming what he should be.
Here's the reason why I'm still not sold on the Daryl and Nick comeback yet. Again, they got over 30 points out of their kicker and defense combined, which is a ostensibly great day, like out of those two positions. Like if you get 20 out of your kicker and your defense, that's kind of like I would say a good day. So 30 is a great day in my book.
Yeah.
He got no production out of Delaney Walker, and they really don't have a tight end. I mean, they didn't have a backup tight end on the bench. I don't know if they've added one since then. And the rest of their positions, aside from Michael Thomas had a decent day, Devontae Freeman had his first good day, and Phillip Rivers had a good performance against Miami. But against Miami, only putting up 20. Phillip Rivers, like I would have expected like more like 25. But and again, they had some production on their bench. But what I'm saying is, in Melvin Gordon's coming back, which is great. Sony Michel, I think he's going to have better weeks. I think they'll be okay. But they're definitely, if I had to, like, again, gut check, where do you see this team come week 12, week 13? That's a bubble team in my book. That's a team that, like, is going to be floating around 5 to 8 and, like, fighting for a playoff spot.
Fighting with the likes of me or,
right,
like, Zach and Jerry as well.
Yeah.
Right in... I feel like that's going to be a battle there for that wild card spot.
Yeah, and I mean, dropping 3 games early, they're going to have to go for the wild card. So it was great that they did put up, over 100, but they're going to need bigger performances because the rest of the league is putting up these numbers.
It's coming too. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is what he's been doing is not what DeAndre Hopkins does.
No, he has not been on number. I mean, right now, where is he in the? Let me see.
DeAndre, he's. Not good.
24th ranked receiver. And we're talking about he put up a huge 27-point day in week 1 against New Orleans. And since then, he hasn't scored 10 points in a game.
And I heard something today about Deshaun Watson that made a lot of sense to me. In that New Orleans game, you remember Deshaun Watson got put on his ass and was hurt for a little bit.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been playing the same since that game.
Might be carrying an injury.
And it's just like bringing back the memories of that ACL tear, and he's just playing scared and not pushing the ball downfield like he should be.
The other thing about them is that, I mean, if you watched Houston in that game against Carolina, they just didn't get anything going offensively at all. I mean, it was embarrassing. It looked like a Miami offense. It really did.
It was not good.
The last thing I want to say before we move on to the next matchup, with Zach, and I know we talked about him a little bit earlier with the 47 points, obviously, like, hugely disappointing day. But not only is it bad, obviously, for the loss, but he's 2-2 right now. He is in 6th place, I think, in the standings. That has huge not huge, but significant implications for the wild card. I mean, he just put up, he basically gave away 50 points, 40 to 50 points towards that wild card spot.
I mean,
so
he'll make it up next week. He went 179 the first week,
right?
72 the second week, 128 the next week, and then 47. He's been going back and forth.
He's back and forth, but 47. I mean, that's rough. It gives so much around. He was, in a great place towards a wild card, and now he's sitting, like I said, if you're looking at just total points scored in the year, at 427 in 6th place, and he's 20 points behind James, his next close, the 5 spot for points scored. So, bad day for Zach. Moving on to the new team name that Jerry he changed the name from Please God Make Zeke Sign to Thanks God to Are You Feeling It Now, Mr. Krabs. I don't know if he stole this from the post. I don't know if you saw the Facebook page today.
What Brad said about.
Well, I posted on there about the thing about it was a really, really bad day some team had in fantasy. There was a team that put up like 18 points or something like that. I posted on the league pages today, and that was the team name. Are You Feeling It Now, Mr. Krabs? I wonder if he stole it from that.
I didn't even look at that.
That was the team name.
Huh.
So I don't know if he stole it or not. It's a good team name. It's a very good team name. But Jerry takes his second loss of the year, and Jerry and Window are both now 2-2 in a 12-point victory for Window.
Yeah, I was not real big on Window's team at the start of the year, but the more the season goes on so far, I'm kind of liking it. Joe Mixon started slow, another slow starter. I know it's the Bengals offense, but he's eventually going to get going. Josh Jacobs, I am a little concerned with. He's just not getting the volume that you are expecting him to get. Jalen Richard is getting a lot of the touches in that offense, and
well, you talk about. I mean, he had 23 touches in week 1, 23 carries. He only has 3 receptions of the year, so really we're just talking about carries here.
Right.
23 carries in week 1, and then 12, 10, and back to 17 in week 4. But still, he's it's. I feel like running back value is so inherently tied to how many touches they get.
And you gotta think, not only volume. Like, volume is great. Like, but you have to have meaningful touches. Like you gotta get the touches that mean something. The goal line touches in the red zone.
True.
And you gotta get work through the air as well.
True.
And Josh Jacobs is not doing that. That's all Jalen Richard.
Here's what I'll say about Window's team. And this was a big win for Window because this is his number 1 pick, his 5th overall pick is out on bye in Le'Veon Bell. For him to take a win this week against Jerry, who was 2-1 and has a pretty Jerry's team on paper is scary in my opinion because he's got Zeke, Eckler. He's gonna lose some value there, but he's still got Mark Ingram, Todd Gurley.
You don't have to worry about running backs.
And even a wide receiver, Adam Thielen's nothing to shake a stick at. Brandon Cooks can go off any given day. D.D. Westbrook hasn't had a good year at all since the injury, but is always prone to having a good day. And Deshaun Jackson had one big week, but I don't think he did anything.
He's been hurt since his one big week. I mean, when he comes back, he should. Yeah. Who knows? He should be being able to produce still.
But Window has to be happy getting a win in these circumstances. This was I think a very big upset win in terms of the circumstances that both these teams were in. With that said, I don't know that Window's team has staying power.
You got to look at the. I'm a big fan of Terry McLaurin. And I think that's going to solve his wide receiver problem he's got going on. You're starting. Marquise Brown too. I forgot about that.
Yeah, but these are guys.
One of those two, one of them's going to hit.
But he's got to start the right one. Is the thing with that? Like, and if you start the wrong one, each of them could have, as they did this week. I mean, Terry McLaurin, nothing.
He didn't play.
Marquise Brown had 4.2. Like, Hollywood is a great player. It's again, love the player, but how often can you really count on him to have 10 points a week? Is his floor enough that Window can survive? Because he had the 28-point day against Miami, had the 12-point day against Arizona, both terrible, terrible defenses, and then since then, 5.9, 4.2.
You're right.
So my thing about Window's team is, if I'm Window, he has to trade a quarterback to someone who needs it. He might want to try. He might want to trade with Jerry after Tom Brady put up 3.7 points this week.
Mm-hmm.
But he has to trade away he really has to trade away Lamar Jackson, I would think, because I would imagine you want to keep Patty Mahomes.
Yeah.
But he has to trade away a quarterback because it's the only piece of his team, in my opinion, that has any value. Other than that, he has to start Le'Veon, Mixon, probably Jacobs, and then Keenan Allen, and probably Josh Gordon at that point. But I don't love the rest of his bench, in my opinion.
I would try to pair Lamar Jackson with one of two Marquise Hollywood Brown or Terry McLaurin.
Yeah,
that would be a solid package to send out for a running back, a starting running back, a starting wide receiver.
Because bye weeks are going to hurt him, I think, because his bench is pretty weak, IMO.
Yeah.
As for Jerry, it sucks because this was probably the last. I mean, Eckler's still going to get some work for sure. But this is probably the last huge day that Austin Eckler's going to have for a little while with Melvin Gordon coming back. Eckler did work for him, put up 26.7, and no one else on Jerry's team came to play.
Well, except for Todd Gurley.
Who was on his bench.
That's rough too. I would have started Mark Ingram over Todd Gurley this week too. I don't blame him for that at all.
No.
But,
because Gurley's been disappointing this year.
Gurley has been disappointing, and Mark Ingram has been playing well, and they're going up against the Browns, who look like shit so far, and just out of nowhere decide they're going to blow up the Ravens spot. So,
yep. Thank you, Nick Chubb.
It's just that was a.
But I feel like Jerry, and again, this might be the thing where Jerry and Window work out a deal, but Brady was hugely disappointing, obviously. Yeah. Thielen was hugely disappointing.
I've got something to say about that Bills defense.
And Jason Witten, I don't see him as a serviceable tight end through the year. He had 9 points week 1, 10.5 week 2, and then 6.9, and then 5. Yeah, you can start him, but he hasn't really done much,
Right.
So on to the last recap, which happens to be your game and post-trade. Unfortunately, you went up against Jason Smith, who's got a pretty good team.
Yeah,
You lost by about 20.
It's less than the ass kicking that I took last week, so...
Small steps, improvement. You're 1-3 on the year. How are you feeling about your position?
Not great. I still feel like my team is about average, and I will end up right around the right around mid-pack, but yeah, bubble fighting for, hopefully I can start scoring some more points. But I feel like David Montgomery's going to start showing up eventually, which would be nice.
Yep.
And it's my biggest issue is choosing which wide receiver to start, and that's wouldn't have been such an issue if I wouldn't have made a trade. But
well, it's funny. So I even said on the podcast last week, Aaron Jones seems like he's gonna put up about 15 points, and he put up 14.8. I mean, that's a solid day. Nothing exemplary, but good. You had a lot of guys like Matt Ryan, Dalvin Cook, who were right around that same area. And Dalvin Cook, that's a kind of I don't want to say it's disappointing, because anytime you get 16 points out of a player, it's good.
Especially going up against the Bears defense.
Exactly, but Cook has been a like the best running back in fantasy.
Yeah, he's been my best friend.
And Kenny Golladay had a great day, but Tyler Boyd, Evan Engram, and David Montgomery were all disappointing. And Jarvis Landry on your bench with 20.7. Also, Darrell Williams 17.1. I mean,
I wasn't going to start him no matter what, but it just
Landry would have made more sense with the flex than Williams for sure.
Yeah, just.
But I mean, you're still putting up 94, which is not. I mean, it's not great, but it's also not a terrible day. At the end of the day, it all with the wild card especially, it comes down to. It's so random with which teams win, which teams don't, but it's really of the. I mean, when you think about it, like when you boil it down to its base elements, of the 5 teams with the worst record, did you outscore the others? You don't have to be. It's like the old adage: you don't have to be faster than the guy. Than you don't have to be faster than the bear that's chasing you. You have to be faster than the slowest guy running away from the bear.
Yeah.
Right. And so. As for Jason Smith, I said this last week that I think he's looking like not only a lock for the playoffs, but potentially first-round bye.
I agree.
He's not proved me wrong. Christian McCaffrey, they're going to run that boy into the ground.
Yeah, he's the team just is solid all around.
Top to bottom.
And, I mean, he didn't even need to start Chris Godwin against
Who put up 35.
Yeah, it's... See, I sat Chris Godwin in another league, actually, Jay's league, for fucking Mecole Hardman. Because of the questionable tag that Godwin carried in the game, which is, I'm assuming, why he started Sterling Shepard instead of Chris Godwin.
Womp womp.
And it's just hard to tell, man. Fantasy's hard. You gotta be good at it.
Wise words. No, but, like... He got production everywhere. Cooper Kupp's looking like the real deal after and I mean it's only 1 week, but obviously like those Cooper Kupp and Tom Brady were traded by Jerry and Jason Smith respectively, and obviously Cooper Kupp had a huge day. Tom Brady had a hugely disappointing day. But even Russell Wilson, Kerryon Johnson, Sterling Shepard, all in double digits. His team looks solid. It'll be interesting to see how he. Gets through the bye weeks. But, I mean, he had T.Y. Hilton, Chris Godwin, and A.J. Green on his bench. A.J. Green's still injured, but is eventually going to come back, and that's going to be a boost to Jason Smith. He really does have a strong team this year. It's reminiscent of our inaugural season where, and you may not know this, I don't know if you know this story, Jason Smith and I had very good teams. It was the very first season of J.C. Penni. We were in college and living in the same suite, or living in the same apartment. And we played the championship game. Jason and I had tied, but because he was the 1 seed and I was the 2 seed, it gave him the win for 5 days. And on the 5th day, there was a recalc, and his Redskins, and there was I remember watching this play. His Redskins gave up a sack against the Cowboys defense, and I had started the Cowboys defense.
Oh,
they gave him 1 point, and that was the championship that year. This might be the 11 years later, the rematch,
the revenge game.
So we'll see.
Get that narrative going for the end of the year.
So with that said, we've gotten through all 5 of last week's matchups, we're at, like I said, the first trimester. We gotta see where we stand. So we got 5 letter grades, A, B, C, D, F. We got pluses and minuses. Let's get right into it, and we're gonna go from top to bottom. So I can't believe that we're starting with me, but we're gonna start with me. 4-0, averaging over 125 a game. I can't believe I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna give myself just an A, not an A plus, just an A. But I'm gonna give myself an A, and I have been blessed that the injury gods have not, the football gods have not taken my players' lives. I have been fortunate that my draft picks so far. I really haven't done anything on the waiver wire. It's been all my draft that's just carrying me through so far, but. I mean, Chubb looks like the real deal, as does... I mean, Fournette's been okay, but you're looking at my team right now in terms of, like, position ranking for this year so far, right? Chubb's the number 4 running back in fantasy. Julio Jones, the number 5 wide receiver in fantasy. Fournette's the number 10 running back. Tyler Lockett, number 10 wide receiver. I said he was going to step into that Doug Baldwin role. So far he has. And then, I still have Devontae Adams, obviously, despite his injury issues, is 20 right now and could be doing more. Robert Woods, 23. Like, I have a good team so far. So far.
Your team is very good. It's just like Jason Smith, we were talking about earlier, top to bottom, you've got all the bases covered. So you are also, I did my ranking or my grades beforehand, but Sean is also an A for me. Not an A plus.
No A pluses. No A pluses.
Just A.
A plus would be like, I think, a higher clip of scoring or having more, like, even more elite players. But an A is where you want to be.
Yes.
And it also does help that Jerry and I are the 2 least. Oh, I'm sorry. Jerry, myself, Nick, and Daryl are the 3 least scored against opponents. I think I'm like 8th in points against right now. Yeah. So that always does help you.
And it helps that you haven't scored below 128 points since week 1. So
far, so good. Moving right along to Jason Smith, and I'm going to give him the same exact grade, and for the same exact reason. I mean, we are separated by less than a point right now, he and I.
Yes.
And he's been consistent. He's been solid. He deserves this A. Jason, great team so far, buddy. Keep it up. But first trimester, everything looks good. If I was shaking the magic 8 ball right now, it would say all signs point to first round bye.
Not much to say that I haven't already said. It's a great team. He has not scored less than 104 points so far this season. He's also an A for me. I'm sorry to make it boring, but hopefully here, going down the line here, we'll defer a little bit.
I'll let you take the next one.
Okay.
The next one in the standings is the only other 3-1 team, which is James.
Like what I said about him earlier, he's done so well, or his team's done so well with overcoming these injuries that he's had. Another team that has not posted below 100 points this year. So he's only 50 points outside of first and second place. He receives B plus.
There you go.
Got it.
So, a slight disagreement, but I agree with you in principle. He's right now 5th in total points scored, which is fine. It's where it's a place you can live. It's a place
consistent though.
He's been that is a huge point. But he's survived injury hell so far.
That factored into my grade a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
I get it, and I can get why you gave him the plus. But he's survived injury hell so far.
You're right.
He's still going to be without Saquon and Tyreek Hill.
This is first trimester grades. We're not grading the rest of the season yet.
I know, but he is literally, again, if you look at total points scored, he is middle of the pack, right? He is 2 points behind Window. He is 20 points ahead of Zach, which is good. But he is just straight up middle of the pack. He is 3-1, which does give him a little edge in terms of win-loss at the end of the year. But he still has to survive injury hell. It's not his fault. This grade isn't a reflection on him, but it's a reflection on where I see his team. The value I give his team is a B. It is good. It very likely will be good enough to land him in the playoffs if he can survive injury hell throughout. If he can get Saquon back, if he can get Tyreek Hill back. But right now, it's a B. It's good. Could be better. But it's not bad. You're still passing. Your mom's not gonna go home and whip your ass for getting a B. It's fine.
Yeah.
Maybe some tiger moms might, but not
Yes, a family just like this, in fact, with a fine son just like you, Peter. A son to whom I could one day give a piece of sour plum candy.
Thank you, Mama Tricia.
But a lazy son who does not make me proud? Peter, that son deserves no candy.
I never got beat for a B.
Right? I don't think James' mom will have a problem with that. You can ask her, James. Next up would be Brad, and where this starts the run of about 4 teams that are 2-2, middle of the pack right now.
Yeah, Brad's team is another team that I think is a very good team and a playoff team. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he put up 2 pretty big weeks, over 120 points. Week 1, his only week below 100 points, but he's still got 98. I mean, he's rocking and rolling pretty good here. He also, for me, gets to B+.
Giving them pluses away, I feel like you're a more generous grader than I am.
Well, I mean, I feel like I gave James his B+, surviving all the injuries, but Brad's team is just good. He hasn't had to deal with as many injuries, but it's just good enough to be where it is.
Here's what I'll say about Brad's team. He's got some players who are studs. David Johnson, Darren Waller, and Amari Cooper are the 3 that come to mind most prominently. He also has Phillip Lindsay, who is a very good player in his own right. James White and has been somewhat. He doesn't blow you away, right? Like he'll get you around 10, but he's right now I think 35 in fantasy, and Juju has been hugely disappointing. Aside from that, Brad's bench is but John Ross being out really does hurt in the sense that he was really looking like arguably the best wide receiver in Cincy. Which a lot of people thought Tyler Boyd was going to be.
John Ross is more of that deep threat, big play guy.
Right.
And people see that. People don't see Tyler Boyd catching 10 balls underneath for, 8 yards a pop.
Right. Which helps you in a half PPR league like ours, but with John Ross going on IR, it is going to be tough for Brad because he's not going to... he's still going to be having to start... I guess you can't not start Juju, but... He's got to start Juju, got to start James White, because who else does he have on his bench? They're all guys who I don't think you really want to start.
Well, I like Christian Kirk a lot, actually.
But what has he done? He's been playing with an injury.
He's had a couple big games. Or not big, but,
He's had 2 double-digit days and 2 non-double-digit days. And that's not what you want out of a player you're starting every week. But I will tell you this. I think Brad has enough potential on his team that I'm going to give him the slight edge over James and give him a B+. I will agree with you on that, only because Johnson, Cooper, and Waller are enough, I think, in terms of having big days.
He's also got Damian Williams, who should be coming back at some point here.
But to what? Because LaShawn McCoy has been the guy so far, for the most part.
And he has, but I feel like he's going to take over Darrell Williams' role at least at the most. And the last 2 weeks that Darrell Williams is playing, he scored a touchdown.
The last thing I'll say before we move on.
And how long do you think Shady's going to be able to stay on the field? He's been
That's true.
Practically non-existent in the fourth quarter.
Old as shit.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll say though is I look for things like defenses and kickers as like they can mask problems, right? Like a great defense and a great kicker can mask a bad fantasy team into you believing they're good. I'm not saying that's Brad because I think his team is solid.
Right. The Patriots defense is
they're the number one defense in fantasy this year, and Will Lutz the number 3 kicker in fantasy this year. If you look at the Patriots defense week to week, they've gotten 10 points, 37 points, 14 points, and 25 points. They're doing work. And I'm not saying that's not going to continue. What I'm saying is that can because defenses can fluctuate so much, and kickers even more so, that it can mask significant problems for a fantasy team, or it could help a fantasy team. But I think it's something to watch. But I think he's got enough. I'll give him the B+. That brings us back to who would be the number 5 spot in our standings right now of all teams. Window. The new guy is 2-2, 500.
Team you thought would be bottom 3.
I did have him bottom 3.
We all kind of thought that.
And
actually, I mean,
not only is he 5th in the standings, he is 4th in total points scored. He's right with James in that regard.
He's kind of had that fluctuation week to week, but he's still been he hasn't scored below 90 points yet. So I mean,
this might be an area where you may disagree with me, and I'm basing this rating off of where I see his talent level, not necessarily where he is in the standings, I guess, because I look at his team and I'm really not that scared. I'm gonna figure this out eventually. I'm really not that scared of his team. Patty Mahomes, Patty Mahomes could throw a 40-burger any given day, and he is the number 2 quarterback in fantasy, but next to Lamar Jackson's number 1. But Le'Veon, his number 1 pick is, and granted he had a bye week, so that's kind of not fair, but he's 21 in position rank right now.
And you got to think, with Sam Darnold being out, the main focus is going to be on Le'Veon Bell.
Sure, but that's going to, I mean, when is Sam Darnold coming back from mono?
He got cleared to practice non-contact today.
Yeah.
So,
but he's not. He can't play in the NFL non-contact.
They were hopeful to get him back this week, but it's looking more like next week.
The whole thing about mono is you can't take a hit because your spleen could rupture and you could die.
Yeah.
As someone who almost died of mono.
My brother had mono his senior year and he only played 2 games of football and had to sit out the rest of the year because he couldn't practice, he couldn't get hit.
Some of the people in the league who knew me sophomore year of college will know I literally I was in the hospital for 2 weeks with mono, almost died. Like I had a fever for like 106. It was crazy.
That's rough.
But Le'Veon not having a bad year by any stretch of the imagination, but not what you want out of a number 1 pick. Joe Mixon, not what you want out of an early round running back. Keenan Allen has been elite. No question. Number 1 receiver in fantasy right now. And Will Dissly is looking like a solid pickup, a solid addition.
And you know he's going to keep getting targets. They just traded their other tight end, Nick Vannett, to the Steelers.
Right, but you're seeing Josh, like we talked about earlier, Josh Jacobs, his after that week 1 boom has kind of faded. And the rest of his team really is not, I mean, Marquise Brown is the number 19 guy right now, but the rest of his team just doesn't scare me in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't. That's why I gave him the C+. It's not about his standings. He's outkicking his coverage. His points per game, he's outkicking his coverage. But if you're asking me, where do I see Windows' team in our picture? I'm giving it a C+. And I'm giving him the plus because of where he is in the standings. He's a C team to me. He's average.
It is. I think it's slightly better than average. And like you said, with the defense and the kicker masking a team a little bit, he's got the Bears defense and Justin Tucker.
Yeah, I'll do it.
So I mean that's enough to if Le'Veon has a down week, could the Bears get 2 turnovers and a score?
Sure.
Doesn't matter. Window for me. B-.
All right, so we're about
What's
even.
up, B-? You
giving him the B, I'm giving him the C. We're still close. moving on to Zach, who was looking pretty, like, a lot better until this week with the 47, and now sits 6th in total scoring at 427, averaging a little over, what I guess that would make it 100 and, like 107, 106, something like that a game.
I'm not doing math right now. I'm drinking.
106, 107 a game. He's 2-2 in that middle of the pack sequence. Where do you have him?
Well, Zach's team, it's just like he's been scoring. It's boom or bust. It's not.
I'm just going to pull up his schedule because I do want to see like the fluctuation. I mean, after that one that he put up 180 in week
first
1.
Week, man, that just.
But then this offsets it because he put up 72, 128, and then 47. I mean, if you think about it, that 179, that's easily like 50, 60 above the league average. But then this 47 is like 40 or 50 below it. So, like...
I mean, if this trend continues, I should beat Zach in 2 weeks. So
You're looking at patterns.
But, his team is, to me, what I would call an average team. He's got stud players, Alvin Kamara, Deshaun Watson. He's got players that can get you a lot of points, or they can get you nothing. Sammy Watkins.
That's a perfect example.
He's got to get a new kicker now, too. Steven Gostkowski just went on IR today. But
wow, that's big.
That's beside the point. His bench is not so strong. Cortland Sutton, I do like a lot.
Dude, AB's coming back. Don't worry about it. He still has AB.
Zach, for me, is a C+.
So, I agree with the first thing you said. Zach's team, although it has huge potential, it is, in my opinion, average. I actually would put him... I actually would have probably given him a B or a B- until this week. But you see, after whenever you score less than 50 points, you have a real problem with where your team's floor is. Because say what you will about teams that score like a 70 or 80 point league now that or in a 70 or 80 point week now that we're a half PPR league. That's pretty bad in and of itself. But 47, I mean, that's
almost impossible. I don't know.
That's like I said, I would love for someone with more time not making podcasts to go in and look at the stats in our league history and see what the worst regular season week is, what the worst week of all time is, because this is like really bad in this new day and age. It's like, it's really not a good sign. And that does drop him down. I was probably going to give him a B until this past week.
But you got to think. Imagine getting to the playoffs. You scored enough points. You got to the playoffs and you scored 47 points in the playoffs. That is the worst way to go.
And what does he have in the tank right now? Because you're right. His starting lineup right now that's in is okay. But is Julian Edelman really scaring you? Is MVS really scaring you? He's starting them. And George Kittle, who he used, and I criticized this pick heavily, who he used an early round draft pick on, is the number 18 tight end in fantasy, averaging around 6 points per week.
Yeah, he's not been off to a great start.
Well, I'm sorry, that's not fair. He did have a bye, but he's averaging. Yeah, well, no, I'm sorry. He's averaging 8.3 points a week. I mean, that's not what you want more out of your tight end, right?
Yes, and the problem with that is they're not throwing the ball in San Francisco. They got 4 running backs that they're feeding the ball to, or each getting 100 yards apiece and 2 touchdowns. Like it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But he does have Matt Breida down there, so maybe try that a little bit.
I'm gonna throw Zach this week gave him a full letter grade penalty in my book.
Oof. The lowest grade so far.
Prove me wrong. I mean, it's nothing. I don't mean to disrespect. I mean, if I see more good weeks from Zach, I will give him a better grade. But this is the equivalent of a kid going into school and pissing all over his test. You can't do that and not expect it to fuck with your final grade. I keep thinking of that scene in in Billy Madison. You get no points. May God have mercy on your soul.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Madison, what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Okay, a simple wrong would have done just fine, but...
All right, so moving on, we're now solidly into the bottom half of our teams, and a team I didn't expect to be saying 7th on this list. Jerry at 2-2. Granted, like I said, I think his team's scary on paper, but he's 7th in total points scored too.
I think Jerry's team is better than what the standings are showing right now. Tom Brady had a really bad week. Zeke had a bad week. He missed the start, with Mark Ingram and Todd Gurley. Adam Thielen hasn't been much of anything, but all these players are freaking good players. I mean, they're all elite players, and his total points scored and his record isn't showing on the what his team is.
Well, you look at his schedule. I mean, he put up 109 against James, 108.
He just had a really down week this week, honestly.
Yeah, this is the one bad week he's had. Other than that, he's been over 100 and solid. And I will say I agree with. I mean, I'll let you give your letter grade. I was going to say, like, if you look at what his players are averaging, they're not averaging elite scores, but they're averaging good scores. Cooks, Thielen, Gurley, Zeke, obviously Brady, Eckler, Deshaun Jackson, Mark Ingram, all averaging double digits. Like, that's fantastic. But he doesn't need to get some more elite performances out of these guys, because right now his best player is Austin Eckler, who's the number 2 running back in fantasy, who is obviously going to lose a substantial amount of value, not all of it, but some value with Melvin Gordon's return.
Yes.
And then there's Mark Ingram at the 5 spot. You need Zeke to turn into a top 5 running back since you used your first overall pick on him, which is understandable at 7.
Yeah, I mean, and Zeke should do better this week. I mean, New Orleans run defense is strong. Like you can't run on them, and it showed. Anyway. Jerry gets the B-. I feel like his team is better than what he's.
Wow,
so far.
Throwing the B to Jerry.
Yeah, B- though. He's not all the way up to the B yet, but
I'm 100% with you. I'm gonna get this right one day. I'm 100% with you. The B-. It's again, and I feel like that's a hot take in the sense that, like, Zach is gonna be like, well, what the fuck? I'm ahead of him in points, but, like, it is strictly about, for me,
Zach can't look at his team and look at Jerry's team and say that his team is better than Jerry's, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you might have more points right now, but you also put up 179 points from week 1. Like, that's in
before Zach comments on the Facebook, like, when I post this in the league, before Zach comments on it saying, I can absolutely say my team's better because it scored more points overall this season. So now we're in the bottom 3 teams. And that would, I think, leave us with your team at number 8, and I'm the
best of the worst.
You are the best of the bottom 3. I didn't have you in the bottom 3. I had you. I think I might have had you in my top 3. I'm not sure, but I know that Jerry had you in his bottom 3.
Yeah, I'm not.
And you are scoring less than 100 points a game. It's funny because in total points scored, it's very similar to the standings overall, which I guess is predictable given that, it's early on in the year, but we haven't really seen someone coasting by with a really terrible schedule or something like that to win.
Yeah, it's been relatively
fair.
Relatively fair. You're right.
How do you feel? I mean, do you want me to grade you first before?
Yeah, you go ahead. You go ahead.
So here's what I'll tell you. I generally, like I said, it's a worrisome sign whenever you're averaging less than 100. I think in the new era of half PPR, I think you need to be averaging 100 to really, have a healthy team, to have a team that's going to be in the playoff conversation at least come season's end. With that said, Dalvin Cook is carrying your lifeless corpse of a team into the playoff conversation. And there are signs of hope. There are flashes of brilliance like Jarvis Landry last week. Like, if they can sustain that, if Tyler Boyd can kind of pick it back up, if Aaron Jones continues to put up 15 a week, if Kenny Golladay has 21 again over and over again like he has been, if Matt Ryan finishes the year as a top 5 quarterback, there's signs of hope. There's reasons where I don't want to, if you were a student, I wouldn't want to fail you yet, because there are times when you nail the answer to the question, and then there are times when you lick the chalkboard. And it's like, at the end of the day, last week you didn't have a bad week, but
my only really bad week was the first week.
But you haven't had a great week.
That was my only win too.
You've broken 100 one time in 4 games.
Yeah, I know.
And even though you're sitting around that 90, you're sitting right around that 100 mark, that's not good enough.
It's just sitting right there, ready to break out. Like,
but you haven't broken out.
There's so much potential there. It needs to flourish. Give me some room to flourish.
I am not gonna. I think this is a very merciful grade. I'm gonna be merciful.
Okay. Be fair.
I think this is fair, but I think it's merciful. C-.
Okay.
And the reason why is this. I think I'm not ready to give you the D yet. I'm not phrasing.
Question.
What?
Are we not saying phrasing anymore? Which, that's fine, whatever, but if we're doing a new thing and nobody told me, that I'd have a problem with.
Your mouth better get over there and make Torvald happy.
Phrasing?
You want to play me hard?
Phrasing?
No, I didn't.
Well, then you better nut up.
Phrasing?
Because I've swallowed just about as much as I can take from you.
Hey, phrasing!
If you want to get schlots into you,
Phrasing.
You better start eating strudel.
You can't.
Phrasing, boom!
Oh, Barry, I am coming for you. Phrasing. Boom.
Tell Archer I'm coming for him. Phrasing, boom, and both berries out.
God damn it! What? Why are we not doing phrasing? Don't worry, Luke. I'm coming for you. What was that?
Phrasing.
Nice.
Come on, make a hole.
Phrasing. Boom. Boom. You really need to talk about getting phrasing back in the rotation. I'm coming! Phrasing, boom!
Turns out he's some kind of spook.
Dude, phrasing. He's right here. Are we seriously done with phrasing?
Who the hell drilled my box?
So, we're just done with phrasing, right? That's not a thing anymore?
Yes. Come, because I'm pulling out.
Phrasing, boom!
Thank you.
I had black guy. What did y'all have?
Oh, I wasn't in the sperm donor pool.
Wait, are we still doing phrasing?
Why are we not still doing phrasing?
Want to try yanking on the pipe?
Phrasing.
What the?
Oh.
Thanks for coming, you guys.
On my tits, what?
No, we're back to saying phrasing.
I'm not.
God damn it. What was wrong with phrasing?
Now, that wasn't so hard, was it?
She said, phrasing, boom. Huh? I can't promise that.
Okay, so if you feel it coming, maybe just do it into your hand, phrasing. Can you do that for me?
I believe there was some mention of holes.
Phrasing, boom.
In and out.
Phrasing, doing great. Sorry about the,
I think it'll come out.
Phrasing. Still, though, 2 things. One, I really think we need to have a serious talk about getting phrasing back in the mix.
Let it go.
Fine, whatever. No more phrasing.
What was thing 2?
Oh, nothing.
I'm not ready.
Game of the D last week. Jesus.
With both the trade and the game. I'm not ready to say you're in serious trouble yet, because you haven't had really terrible performances that scare me in terms of your floor. Your floor is okay. I am scared that you don't have staying power in the playoffs.
I also don't have I don't think my ceiling is very high.
It's not, and that's the thing. You have a high floor, low ceiling, which is gonna keep you in the conversation for a while. But if you don't have some big weeks, you're not going to be in it for
And that's
long.
That's kind of how I was last year. I started out 1-3 last year, just like I am right now.
Okay.
And I slowly,
deliberately letting us get confident before you start trying.
But I gave myself just a straight up C, just average.
Wow, that's above where I would have you.
Very average. I see all that potential. Maybe I'm a little biased.
Giving a C to a kid who's flunked 3 tests. You've lost 3 in a row.
But I think I graded too. I must have graded on a curve because I only have one person lower than a C.
Listen. Oh wow, I'm gonna butcher the next two. Well, actually, probably not Daryl and Nick as much, but anyway, the person,
Just McMillan.
We'll get there. The person in that seat, generally speaking, sucks his own team's dick like repeatedly. So
what do you want me to do?
Looking at you, Jerry.
So that leaves us with 2 teams left, and 3 players, but 2 teams. Daryl and Nick, the other 1-3 team, averaging. So they put up 355 points. This is actually one of only 2 people in the league who are currently. I'm sorry, that's not true. One of 4 people in the league, quick math, who are being outscored, as in they're putting up less points than they are getting scored against them. That goes to James and the third in overall points scored. That's happening to
me.
Did I fuck up? I think I fucked up. No, you're right. It's happening to James, happening to Zach, happening to you, and yeah, I screwed up. And Daryl and Nick and McMillan, obviously. So 5 teams. So half the league's getting outscored. Got that on the first try. But Daryl shouldn't. I mean, they're last place in points against. People are averaging 90 points against them, and they're 1-3. Daryl and Nick.
They're point. Even McMillan is only 0.2.
McMillan has outscored Daryl and Nick.
No, I'm saying McMillan's points 4.
Yeah,
is only 0.2 behind with
what they've gotten against.
Yeah, I mean that's
embarrassing.
A little bit. I didn't notice that until you just pointed it out. Like they're almost at an equal ratio there.
That's
points for and points against.
That's what I'm saying. And they are last place in points for. They are in first place in points against, and somehow they have a win, which is they're 1 game away from being
Zach, whose team shit the bed.
Fair. that is a huge. Now that I'm realizing that is a huge factor. What grade are you giving them? Just looking at that roster.
They also.
I can't believe you curved this shit.
I don't know if I could. I didn't give any. Like I just didn't grade below a C-. I didn't know we were doing like Fs. But hey, I gave them a C as well. I feel like their team, like you said earlier, is a bubble team, just like mine. He's got potential there. They got quarterback trouble.
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett. I mean, Jacoby Brissett's been top 10, though.
They just dropped Baker this morning, I saw.
Homer.
I don't know. I feel like Baker's coming back, man.
He it was a tale of 2 halves of the season for Baker last year. Like, the first half of the year, he was terrible. In the second half of the year, the Browns really took off, which is why everyone was, like, on the hype train for the Browns this year. Daryl and Nick are...
I like the Jalen Samuels pickup, too.
Jalen Samuels is solid. I mean, the big thing that's keeping me from giving them a real thrashing in these ratings is Melvin Gordon.
Wait, is there a picture of a girl with cum on her back?
Yeah, you didn't realize that?
I didn't until just now. That's awesome. Good job, guys.
So, Melvin Gordon, I was of the belief, and I said this I think in the post-draft episode, that I didn't think he was coming back to like week 10, week 11. I think I was optimistic. Jerry didn't think he was coming back at all this year.
Melvin Gordon?
Yeah.
I didn't think so either.
He's back in week 5 playing.
That is like if you would have gave me that information before before we drafted,
people would have he would have gone in like the late second, early third.
I was about to say I would draft him in the 3rd.
But and I have him in the league, so I'm happy about this. But that's their saving grace right now, because aside from that, Jacoby Brissett is right now a top 10 quarterback, averaging 19 a week. But I maybe this is a hot take, but I feel like I see it every year where a quarterback steps into a role and is like, they're like, oh man, this guy's great. He's a top 15 quarterback, really good. He's the next big thing.
Nick Mullins.
They do this for like 8 or 9 weeks where it's like, this guy's it. This guy's the real deal. And and then defenses start getting film on their tendencies and the way they the way their reads generally go, and that's when you start to see them come to earth.
What?
And I feel like that's going to happen with Jacoby Brissett as the year goes on.
Yeah, the dude that started for the Texans and then went to Denver. What the fuck's his name? Shit. It doesn't matter. Anyway, he's the same way. Like, Denver paid him a lot of money to come there.
Oh, Osweiler.
Brock Osweiler.
Who then went to Miami last year. Who was in Miami last year.
Like, that's just, it's going to be the same thing. I mean, but Jacoby Brissett, I feel like, is a little bit different. Like, he's
averaging 19 a week.
He learned, he was behind Tom Brady for a while and learned from him. And then comes in and is behind Andrew Luck, another one of the best quarterbacks there's been, and learned behind him. And now he got forced into a role, and he's performed. I mean, you can't...
So you gave him a C.
Yes.
You have time to correct this grade by the second trimester, okay? This is just the first trimester. You got time. Don't have to abort just yet. You can think about it. It's a D+ because it's really just been disappointing. Right now, their starting lineup, and I'm not saying they're going to start this week, but is Brissett, Melvin Gordon. I'm fine with those. Carlos Hyde. Like, and I get it, because, again, their options are Carlos Hyde, Devontae Freeman, Sony Michel, who have all been really disappointing. Averaging, the most is Devontae Freeman averaging 8.8 a week after his 14-point performance last week.
I think Sony Michel's going to have a big week this week. He's due.
DeAndre Hopkins in a half-point PPR league averaging less than 12. 24th ranked receiver right now. Michael Thomas, top 10 receiver, but averaging around 15. That's fine, but he's not getting elite production anywhere else except from his defense and his kicker. And that's a huge... Daryl and Nick have a huge problem there. And their bench really isn't that deep. Aside from... I mean, their wide receivers are putting up somewhere between 12 to 15, but that's to be expected, again, in a half-point PPR league. Just because you can plug and play those receivers, are you going to start any of them over DeAndre Hopkins when he's pooping the bed? You know, when the average is only 2 points less. So what I'm saying is there are some real warning signs with Daryl and Nick that I think if you want to bring your grade up, you got to figure what you're doing out pretty quick, because Melvin Gordon might get you back in it. But we're grading on the first 4 weeks of the season, and right now it's a D+ until you bring it up, until Melvin Gordon carries you back to relevance. Which leaves our last team. Bringing up the rear, as usual, McMillan. 0-4. Averaging less than 90 a week, much like Daryl and Nick. Getting dicked on at the tune. I mean, his points against aren't terrible. Like, he's what? Middle of the road in terms of points against, but he's just not scoring. And he hasn't won a game.
His team is...
Did you give him a C too?
No, he didn't get a C. He got...
Oh my lord, shut up.
C-.
You are like...
This is the lowest grade I gave.
That's not a low grade. You don't have a kid take a dump on the desk and then give him a C- for it.
You got a fucking F in here?
Yes, I do, and that's what I'm about to give him.
McMillan, because of Sean, you now get an F.
Thank you.
Your team fucking sucks. That's what F stands for. Fucking sucks.
I mean...
Is that what you want me to say?
Yes! I mean, here's the thing. There are, again, reasons to... I mean, I like to be optimistic. I said this on the last podcast episode that, like, Jerry's like, why your team fucking sucks? And I'm like, why your team's not as bad as it looks? And I'll do that with McMillan's team. Like, James Conner finally had a good week last week. Congratulations. LaShawn McCoy
doing more than any of us thought he would because he was in Buffalo when you drafted him, and he's now in a much better situation with the Chiefs and averaging over 12 a week. Kyler Murray, a serviceable quarterback, averaging 18 for a shitty team in Arizona. Derrick Henry, not as bad as I thought at 16.8, still healthy so far a week, and in and an RB1 right now.
Going up against that tough Bills defense, so he's gonna have a down week.
But his receivers are fucking garbage.
Completely, dude.
OBJ has done nothing.
He doesn't have a number 2 receiver.
Yeah, I mean, it's right now he's starting DeMarcus Robinson because his bench is Mike Williams, Robbie Anderson, Geronimo Allison. Geronimo Allison might be the guy you start. Well, no, I guess not because he fucking sucks too. But like he put up 13.3.
Devontae Adams being out this week is a good time to start him since you fucking stole him from me, Jay.
I mean, the bottom line is he needs to make a trade for wide receivers, of which I have 4 top 15 wide receivers right now. Wink, wink.
Fuck you.
He needs to make a trade for some wide receivers because he just doesn't have any depth there. And he is, like, I appreciate the fact that he is not last place in scoring, which is why I am going to give him an F, but I'm not going to give him the F- that I could have given him. I'm just going to fail him for right now at 0-4 in a very bad way. And it's because if you look at Daryl's team versus his team, I could see Daryl and Nick. I could see them coming back into the conversation with Melvin Gordon.
Oh,
who carries this lifeless corpse of a team back in the conversation?
Jordan
Howard after 31 points last week?
The 2 teams right above McMillan, Daryl and Nick and me, are... Like we said, we're bubble teams. Like we're going to be fighting to try to get that last playoff spot. I don't really see McMillan's team getting there.
And the fact that he hasn't won this week, or he hasn't won up until this point, he's 0-4, right? Like that does factor into an extent.
He's got to blow something. He's got to do something. Like trade some of your.
But who does he trade?
I don't. Yeah, that's the thing. It's.
So, anyway, those are our grades. So hopefully you enjoyed them. Really quick, last thing we got to do, and this might be our longest episode of the podcast.
It's pretty long. We're like an hour and a half
hour 10 so far. So last thing we got to do really quick is look at the Week 5 schedule and figure out who we predict for Week 5.
We'll try to run through this quick. We talked about everybody's team, like for the most part, so we'll just kind of run through here and
first
give
one
our picks.
So far 4-0. Fitzy going up against Brad, 2-2. Good. This actually, in my if I was gonna say like, hey, there's a primetime matchup. If there's one game that's going to Monday Night Football, it's Brad and I right now because it's the number 1 versus the number 4. These are the 2 highest rated teams playing each other.
What the fuck's up with this mount? There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this one's gonna be pretty close too.
I think it could go absolutely go either way.
It's gonna go
and I'm gonna go out on a limb. I think this is the week I fall to 4-1. I think this is my first loss.
Oh boy!
I am giving it to Brad. I really do think I'm due for some regression. I'm due for a bad week. I really haven't had much of one. It's got to happen eventually. And Brad has a good enough team to beat me. Like
he does
on any given week. So I'll give it to Brad.
I'm still gonna give it to you. I think Juju.
Phrasing.
I still think Juju has a down week. Amari Cooper's going up against Green. Green Bay's got a very improved secondary. The Patriots could also put up 30 points on the Redskins. So
who you got?
I'm still gonna give it to you, Sean. Again, phrasing, but I say Sean wins this week.
All right, click right.
Oh, my bad.
That's all right. I can edit this out. Don't worry. Actually, that works too. So moving on to James and Daryl and Nick. This is the number 9 matchup against the number 3. I mean, we're talking about 3-1 against 1-3. This is for Daryl and Nick. This has to be like you get back in the conversation this week against James.
I think they can do it. I'm gonna give it. I'm saying Daryl and Nick win this week.
I will agree with you.
Chris Carson's going to have a hard time against that Rams defense. Wayne Gallman
has to see some regression.
Is definitely going to see regression, especially against the Minnesota defense.
Yep.
Mike Evans and Stephon Diggs, like, who knows really what they're going to... Yeah, Mike Evans should have a good week against New Orleans. Like, if that game ends up being a shootout and they start airing it out, you never know with that kind of shit. But,
yeah, I think James, I don't see him really as a 3-1 team. I see him more as a middle-of-the-pack team, especially right now in injury hell, although Tyreek is questionable, not out this week, which is interesting.
He did practice today, limited.
So what I'm saying is maybe he comes back pretty soon. But end of the day, I will give it to Daryl and Nick, but I'm going to say this is the week that they really not need to come with something, but they got to start showing glimpses of life before they end up, fucking their way out of the playoff picture and ended up in the Sacco. Moving on to Zach and Window, and we're talking about two teams, middle of the pack.
Another close one.
2-2. Who you got?
This week, I'm going to say Window. Marlon Mack is questionable this week. He did not practice today. I'm still gonna go Window.
You're going Window.
I am. I don't think Zach has the staying power to withstand what Window's putting up here.
That's why I agree with you. I think that it's not, and I do think Window has vastly outperformed expectations. I say this week after week. Jerry and I both had him in our bottom three. I think a lot of people didn't think his team was going to be as relevant as it is, and every week he's been solid.
Mm-hmm.
And so credit to him where it's due, but I think my pick of Window this week is also more of an indictment of Zach, and it's because of the red flags in the 47-point game, which I understand everyone can have a bad week, but 40 or 47 points in a week really exposes a problem. And obviously Kamara, Mack, and I'm sure Sammy Watkins, I'm sure everyone's on his team going to have like a monster day and fuck this prediction, but I'm going to give the nod to Window as well. I think you're right on that.
And
now, do we even need to predict this one? It's Jason Smith versus... It's the battle of Jasons, McMillan and Smith.
The Jasons going up against each other here.
And they couldn't be more distant in terms of where they are.
I mean, watch, this will be McMillan's first win somehow, but I highly doubt it. I really highly doubt it, but
it's gotta be Jason Smith.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
It's not even it's gonna maybe it'll be closer than I expect, but Jason Smith has an objectively much better team. Christian McCaffrey is better than any player on McMillan's roster. You can make the same case for several guys on.
In my opinion, Christian McCaffrey's the best player on anybody's roster.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he's the number one player in the NFL.
That's fair. But I'm saying, at every position I look at right now, aside from maybe RB2, I give the nod to Smith.
Yeah.
Tight end. Both wide receiver spots. I guess OBJ you can give the nod over Godwin, but still,
even if T.Y.'s out, he's still got Alshon Jeffrey going up against the fucking Jets.
Yeah, he's got enough talent on his roster that I don't think it's gonna matter. I think you got to give it to Smith, and that leaves your matchup against Jerry in two teams that again this is gonna be another close one. I think it's two teams that are on the playoff bubble.
I think it'll be close, but I still think I'm going to fall to 1-4 this week.
Oh, giving the nod to Jerry.
I can't.
Yeah.
It's just hard because I'm stuck at wide receiver right now because
Yeah.
Tyler Boyd should be okay against Arizona, but Kenny Galladay's on a bye, and I'm going to have to start either Allen Robinson or Jarvis Landry, or maybe Golden Tate, but I don't want to start him on his first week back. And,
go ahead.
And Landry's in the concussion protocol, I think. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I believe so. Let me double check, but I believe so. I'll say this: Landry is a huge, Ravens the concussion. I will say that's the real factor. I think that'll play a huge role in determining what happens.
I just have to figure out who else I'm going to start at what
Because you can, even though I think Jerry at skill positions like running back and wide receiver has a pretty big edge, you can make up ground in certain areas. Among them, tight end. Among them, theoretically speaking, maybe defenses.
My defense is going up against my tight end, so...
Right, so maybe they'll offset. That's true, actually. Never mind. That's a good point. But, like, you could manage. But if I'm going to predict one, it's got to be Jerry to me, too. And I hate to say it, which sucks for you because it's going to put you, if true, it puts you at 1-4 and really in a danger zone.
No, it does. It's
danger zone.
I'm not in a good spot at the moment. And
dangerous. Yeah. You know what's dangerous? Your obsession with me. Seriously, Lana, call Kenny Loggins because you're in the danger zone. From Top Gun.
Just be careful.
No.
Whoever he is, he ghosted an ID file onto our worldwide database.
Yeah, which you probably found while researching me. Lana, because you're in the, danger zone!
And those were his last words, right before he bled to death on the rug.
How'd you get life insurance, Lana? Don't they know you're in the danger zone? Lana. 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 Lana!
What?
Danger zone. It also makes you incredibly mean.
And ugly.
Seriously. Biatch. Danger zone.
Well, don't... Wait, what?
Don't engage her. But come on, Lana, you dated Mr. Archer forever.
And you have nothing to show for it.
Paging Dr. Loggins.
Couple things.
Mission will be dangerous.
Would you say we'd be venturing into a zone of danger?
Well, yes, obviously.
No, but I mean, how would you phrase that?
The zone will be one of danger?
No. to a zone? It's just one of danger.
Welcome to the danger zone.
Adam Thielen should eat against the Giants.
Yep.
So that'll be one of those low performances that he's had in the past couple of weeks. It should be.
Well, Kirk Cousins apologized to him, apparently, saying, like, it's my
Kirk Cousins
fault.
is a little fucking bitch, dude.
I'm sorry, Adam.
He doesn't call the fucking plays like it's his fault that he didn't get the ball.
I'm sorry, Adam. I always underperform against big teams. Oh, man. All right, guys. Well, that's the podcast. Special thanks to Alex for joining me, our defending champ.
That was a lot of fun, man. I'm glad to be back anytime.
Hey, and speaking of which, guys, talk to me. We set this up on Facebook, and he's here now. And
That's how it works.
Thank goodness he's here because Jerry was a little bit busy. He couldn't do today. We were trying to maybe reschedule Friday, but didn't end up working out. So feel free, guys. Hit me up. Come on the show. Ideally, I would love to get everyone in the league on here at some point. And
even through Skype,
Yeah, I'm sure we can make that happen. And the bottom line is, like,
you just gotta put a little square up there with his face in it.
It's cool to have this in the sense that, like, it's something we can look back on and say, hey, this was our season. This was something that we did.
It'll always be there. It's on the internet.
Yeah, just like Macmillan's mom's nudes. Oh shit! That actually is. I should edit that out because in case others watch the podcast. So
Dude,
yeah,
don't watch this.
Jay, don't show it to your mom. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you next week.
Cheers.